Welcome to Crackling Rosie True Crime. I'm Crackling Rosie. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, giving the video a thumbs up. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you for being part of the Crackling Crime crew. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to today's video where we will be discussing the crazy thumbnail on how to piss off a serial killer. But on a more important note, we're going to talk about some research that I've been diving into over the last few days and a possible disorder that may have been plaguing David Berkowitz. And it may shed some light as to what happened to him during and after his years in the military. We'll start with a letter to Dr. Abramson. The information in this letter might help complement some of the research to follow. The letter's addressed Dr. Abramson, number 3, so maybe page 3 of a letter, and it's dated January 10th, 1981. Another experience was getting to meet the crazies. Since it was a psychiatric unit, I had the opportunity to see for myself how the mentally disturbed lived. I had always wondered what it was like to be a genuine psychotic, and I wanted to see if they were like the character who played the madman in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. None of them were, but they were disturbed enough. I was both fascinated and saddened by the behavior of these confined men who screamed and yelled at all hours without the slightest compunction. There were also fistfights, which occurred at times. However, they weren't too frequent because a straitjacket awaited those who broke the rules. Some men were tied into these things on a regular basis. I myself was placed in a jacket on at least one occasion. This is the time when I began to scream and carry on when the television was playing. Actually, it had nothing to do with the TV. Rather, this woman was cracking her gum and it disturbed me terribly. By the way, this is something I forgot to tell you, I think. Gum cracking, the filthy, disgusting, wretched habit of clicking one's chewing gum in her mouth is, I believe, a crime to be punished only by death. Nothing but nothing enrages me more than to see a man or woman, it's most often done by a woman, I noticed, making constant cracking noises with chewing gum. I have gotten off buses sometimes a half mile from my apartment when a person was on a city bus and was cracking gum. I didn't say quietly chewing gum. I have walked right out of the movies when someone in the audience begins to make that god-awful popping noise. And I once was planning on going from corner to corner in the city, NYC, so that I could shoot and kill people who crack their gum in public places. I would have done it in broad daylight and without the slightest fear. So much do I hate this callous criminal action. I don't know if Bernice ever spoke to you about this, but I have often complained to her about people who commit such an atrocity. She doesn't do this, however, and she knows that I would chase her out of the visiting room if she did. Many women who have no class are often guilty of this. So what did you think of that letter? Have you heard that one before? I've read it many times along with the other letters to Dr. Abramson, but for some reason I just had a really big aha moment the other night, and it sent me a little bit into a rabbit hole, but really just wanting to dig deeper into these auditory triggers that Berkowitz had. Obviously, the barking dogs, that was probably the number one besides the gum cracking. When I read this, I'm like, oh, I need to share that one How to piss off a serial killer? Well, go ahead and crack your gum in front of Berkey. Anyhow, it just raised more questions in my mind since there's a lot of dispute on what the mental illness or the diagnosis actually is for David Berkowitz. I'm not going into that today. You can easily do your Google research and it will come up with paranoid schizophrenic, it will come up with personality disorders, it'll come up with a few different things. You can make your own assessments. But I just want to step back for a moment. Full disclosure, I am not a medical nor am I a mental health professional, though I should be. I'm so interested and I love to research this aspect of cases, but I am not a mental health professional. I am only sharing questions that come up in my mind and then follow up research that I do. And if I think I'm onto something, I share it and you make your own assessment. So, anyway, I was looking into auditory triggers and what they might be linked to. And I came up with misophonia. Now, I'm going to challenge you all. When I did some research on it, many triggers are common. And one of the big ones was gum chewing, snapping, popping, and barking dogs. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let's jump back and summarize exactly what misophonia is. Misophonia is a strong dislike or hatred of specific sounds. It's a disorder in which certain sounds trigger an emotional and or physiological response that is unreasonable. It's thought to be the result of an abnormal functioning limbic system, and that's the part of your brain that regulates emotion. It runs from mild to severe, and in a mild case of misophonia, you may experience anxiety, discomfort, the urge to flee the situation. In a more severe response, you may feel disgust, rage, anger, hatred, panic, emotional distress. So we'll have to think that Berkowitz was in the severe category. Now, there's a lot of controversy with this disorder. There are many medical professionals that don't quite feel that it's a disorder, and it's actually not classified as one, but as a kind of a subset disorder of other conditions, including high anxiety, depression, OCD, Tourette's. I'm not going to read a WebMD for you. I'm just sharing basic information on the condition. And the real challenge is for you to look into it a little bit more deeply if it's something, if the psychological profiling of David Berkowitz is important to you. It's just another term or disorder that you can add to your research. So let's think about how this can pertain to David. He was in the army. He was in charge of training dogs or something of that sort. Did something happen that made that dog barking trigger for him? They say that misophonia begins to develop in early teens, so perhaps he could have had it then, but nothing was so severe for him. And then after having some traumatic experience in the service, that heightened the triggers. Something to think about. Again, back to the challenge. If this interests you, please do a little research. Let me know what you find out. I did Google for quite some time last night to see if there was anything already put out there on misophonia and David Berkowitz, and I found nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, this is breaking news, at least for myself, and I'm so excited. I will definitely be diving deeper into this. I will be sharing anything that I feel will be of interest to you and that might be able to help you on your journey or with your research. But please do share some comments. Let me know what you think. I was kind of blown away with it, but you know, I get I get excited over everything. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you think. I mean, I am sold that he had this disorder amongst other mental illnesses, of course, but never really thought about it. We've talked, or I've seen it mentioned in articles, the auditory hallucinations, of course, him saying that the dog was a demon telling him to kill, but never quite put so specific as with this physiological disorder. So, anyhow, let me know what you think. I'm going to leave it off here. Let you do your research. Please share. And thank you for joining me today. Have an awesome weekend. Peace.